Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Tuesday, August the 19th. And welcome to our video commentary. Just a quick heads up here. We recorded our weekly audio program with Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda. Those of you who used to listen to me before when I was doing only the podcast, I go back with Bill to 2008. That's when we recorded our first podcast. And we've been doing it, once a week. We call it the Week in Review. And we've been doing it once a week for what appears to be, 17 years? We must have 500 shows or more that we recorded. But we started doing it as a podcast, meaning audio only. And then when I switched to video, then we started mixing it, but still in a more of an audio format because it's a little longer than your typical video. So that's available in the archives. You can listen to it before this one, and it's always fun. It's always fun to talk to Bill Katz. So check it out if you get a chance, because it's always very interesting when Bill joins me. Bill has such an interesting story. I'll quickly tell you about him. He used to work in the New York Times in the city section. He worked with the Johnny Carson show. And he was not one of the writers, but he did some work for Johnny Carson. He used to interview the people that went on the show, the guests that went on the show, and then he would prepare a summary for Johnny Carson for asking about this or this or that. So very interesting guy. I mean, that's a pretty good background. He also worked at the CIA, and he went to the University of Chicago. So, and I think Columbia Journalism School as well. So this is a really good man who I've enjoyed talking to over the years, and we kept that going today. So usually we do it once a week. We usually do it on Mondays. But what happened this week is that with all of these things going on with Trump and Putin and the people coming here, the different heads of states coming here, we moved it to Tuesday so that we could look back at the story. And I think we did a pretty good analysis of it. Again, it's available on the video, but it's primarily in audio. If you can follow me on that, you can listen to it the same way, but it's more of an audio than it is a video. So check it out. We actually got into a lot of things like the media coverage. People have been very critical of the media here, and with good reason. The media has been extremely negative. They continue to have this obsession with being negative with President Trump. And they're calling it a failure, even though nobody knows how this is going to end up. It could be a failure. Could be. It could be that Putin never, agrees to anything. And the fighting goes on. That could happen. But on the other hand, there's also probably an equal chance of some kind of an agreement between Ukraine and Russia. I think, as I mentioned to Bill on our podcast today, that I believe that both sides want to finish this. It's costing them a lot of money. It's costing them a lot of treasury. It's costing them a lot of human treasure, not just civilians, but soldiers. And when Russia had to bring 10,000 troops from North Korea, what that's telling me is they may be having problems recruiting Russians to go fight. So neither side is doing very well, and logic tells you that they should finish this thing and stop this thing. That's what logic tells you. But logic doesn't always prevail in these things. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of nationalism. So my guess is that the negotiations are going to be tough. And at some point, President Trump is going to have to make a very difficult call. And that is, do I begin to put pressure on Putin? And there is a lot of pressure that he can put on Putin. He can make Putin's life very difficult with all kinds of sanctions and all kinds of things. I don't think we're there yet, but that's an option, of course, that President Trump has. And I don't think he'll have any trouble using it. So, but let's wish the best, let's hope for the best. And let's hope that these two countries can resolve what is in essence a war of mutual destruction. I don't see this thing, honestly, doing very well for either side. I don't see it doing very well. Now, there's some talk of putting troops. I do not believe in putting American troops. I'm all for putting European troops, not NATO, but European troops individually putting troops. We can help them from the outside. We can do logistics. We can do stuff like that we're very good at. But I don't believe in putting American troops in that situation. I think this is a European solution, and the troops have to come from Europe. Whatever countries want to put them up, they have to come from Europe, kind of a peacekeeping performance type of thing, where you put maybe 10,000, 15,000 European troops to protect Ukraine from Russia coming back sometime later. But American troops, I don't support putting on the ground. We can do a lot. We can do a lot in support, but I don't support American troops on the ground here. So we'll keep an eye on that story. It's going to go on for a while. And let's hope that they can resolve it, because it's as I say, it's just mutual destruction, this war. Both sides are taking a terrible beating. And unfortunately, as everybody knows, civilians are the ones who end up getting killed. And lots of civilians are getting killed. And by the way, shame on Putin for these attacks on civilian locations the last couple of nights. You know, here he is dropping bombs in Ukrainian cities. How despicable is that? You're sitting there negotiating and you're dropping bombs on Ukraine cities and villages and so on. That is despicable, absolutely despicable on the part of Putin. Absolutely despicable. I have a post over at the American Thinker today, and in fact, I've got another one coming out tomorrow. They're both related to topics. The one today is how I feel the Democrats have completely blown, politically speaking, that is, have completely blown the Washington, D.C. story. Instead of saying, hey, we do have a crime problem, we do want to work with President Trump in getting this fixed because it benefits everybody. If the capital of the United States is a clean and safe city, everybody wins. The Democrats decided to do what they always do. If Trump says yes, they have to say no. And the consequence is that they turned this thing into a debate about statistics, which is, of course, meaningless to the people who live there, who are living with this crime. Well, you know, a big political mistake on the part of the Democrats, because I think everybody knows, especially the people who live there, that there is a crime. And most of the people who live there, by what we can see and hear on the interviews, are pretty happy that these troops are there. The troops cannot arrest people. Let's clear this up. The troops are not, you know, arresting people. They're not allowed to do that, but they can be present, and they can be very intimidating. When you see troops with heavy weapons, they can be pretty intimidating. And so far, they seem to be doing a good job, which is what my post on Wednesday is about. I mean, this is working. The city is safer. People feel more relaxed. So it's working. It's working. The policy is working. Just as honestly, why would anybody somehow, I mean, if you put forces on the ground and you start arresting and processing criminals and getting them off the streets, why wouldn't you have a safer city? I mean, it just makes all the sense in the world. There's nothing radically new about this. It makes sense that if you have more troops and you have more law enforcement and you allow the local police to arrest and prosecute the people who are creating problems, and the Guard is basically a backup force, but again, a very intimidating backup force, of course the crime is going to go down and things are going to feel safer, as they already do. So I've got a post about that coming out Wednesday, where I say, once again, they missed the boat again. And instead of participating in the solution, they decided to attack Trump, which is all they know how to do. And now, politically, this has been, I think, a pretty good victory for President Trump. Speaking of President Trump, if you've been watching the governor of California, he has been adopting some Trump-like tactics when it comes to attacking President Trump. Just like President Trump likes to be very strong and in your face, and sometimes will use, like nicknames to talk about people. The governor of California is doing the same thing. He's basically wants to become, I should say, the Democrat Trump, by being very tough and getting in Trump's face and arguing with Trump about this over this and this and this and this and that. It's not going to work for two reasons. Number one, because Trump has a very unique style that is very difficult to copy. Whether you love Trump or whether you hate Trump, his style is very difficult to copy. What he does, he's the only one that I've seen do it and do it successfully. And the governor of California doesn't have that personality. He may say those words, but he just doesn't have the personality that Trump has. The other problem that the governor of California has is that he is the governor of California. And everybody knows what that means. You know, a state with a lot of problems. Most of the problems are a reflection on very bad politicians, not the people or the state. The state is beautiful and the people are great. But when you have very bad politicians, that's what you get. You get a state losing people like crazy. As I always say, the busiest highway in California is people leaving California. So, but that's the politicians. That's, you know, it's not the state. The state has all the resources and potential that it always had, but very bad politicians, and the consequence of having a one-party state. And that's what happens when you have a one-party state. Things don't get done as well in a one-party state as they do when you have a little political competition. Let me wish a happy number 90 today to Bobby Richardson. If you're an old baseball fan, or you're a Yankee fan especially, you're going to remember Bobby Richardson. He was the second baseman of the Yankees, late 50s, early 60s, and some of the Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris years. The second baseman was Bobby Richardson. Was a pretty good player, wonderful player. And after he left baseball, he became a minister. And I don't know where his church is, but was a very popular minister. And we will always remember Bobby Richardson, not just because he was a great player, but because when Mickey Mantle passed away, in Mickey Mantle's funeral, it was Bobby Richardson who delivered a wonderful eulogy to his friend, his teammate, Mickey Mantle. And he basically said, look, you know, Mickey made some mistakes, but he was a great teammate and a great friend, and let's remember that about his life. It was one of the greatest eulogies. If you have a chance to watch it on YouTube, you're going to love it. One of the greatest eulogies that I've ever heard in a funeral. Bobby Richardson, who is 90 years old today, so happy birthday, Bobby Richardson, wherever you are. I think my brother and I still have a couple of your baseball cards from those days in the early 60s. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.